Have you ever felt lost, like you're just going through the motions but not really living? I've been there. Carl Jung believed that true life only begins when you discover who you really are. But here's the problem. Most people never do. They live as someone society wants them to be, never questioning if that's truly them. But you're here because you want more. You want to understand yourself on a level most people never reach. So let's uncover 11 powerful lessons from Carl Jung that will help you finally discover yourself and start truly living. Number 1, stop lying to yourself. For the longest time, I told myself I was happy, even when every part of me knew I wasn't. I stayed in a relationship that drained me, convinced myself that my job was fulfilling when it wasn't, and ignored the voice inside me screaming that something was missing. Why? Because the alternative, admitting the truth, was terrifying. I had wrapped my identity around things that weren't really mine. The relationship, the career, the life path, it was all built on a lie I kept telling myself. This is fine, I'm fine. But deep down I wasn't, and I knew it. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that was me. I made excuses, I distracted myself, and I avoided the truth. But here's what I've learned. You can only run from yourself for so long before reality catches up. And when it does, you have two choices. Keep pretending or finally face yourself. So ask yourself, am I truly happy, or am I just comfortable? Are you staying in a situation because it fulfills you, or because you're scared of what happens if you leave? Growth requires honesty, even when it hurts. And the sooner you stop lying to yourself, the sooner you'll find real happiness, not the kind you have to fake. Number 2, integrate your shadow. There are parts of you that you don't want to acknowledge. Your anger, your jealousy, your insecurities. Maybe you lash out in frustration and immediately regret it. Maybe you compare yourself to others and feel inadequate. Maybe you hold grudges longer than you should. And every time these emotions rise to the surface, you shove them down, pretending they don't exist. But here's the problem. What you suppress doesn't disappear. It festers. It controls you from the shadows. Jung believed that self-discovery isn't about eliminating these dark parts of yourself. It's about embracing them. He called this shadow integration. Your shadow is made up of everything you've been taught to reject about yourself. And until you accept it, you'll always feel like something is missing. Think about it. Have you ever felt an irrational hatred towards someone, only to realize later that they reminded you of something you don't like about yourself? Have you ever overreacted to a situation and wondered why? Often, these are your shadow traits trying to reveal themselves. Instead of running from them, ask, what is my shadow trying to tell me? What parts of myself have I ignored? True self-acceptance means looking at your flaws, not with shame, but with understanding. Only then can you take control of who you truly are. Number 3, your dreams reveal the truth. Have you ever woken up from a dream feeling like it meant something? Maybe you dreamed of being trapped, falling, or reliving a painful memory. It might have seemed random, but according to Jung, dreams are messages from the unconscious mind, clues about parts of yourself you haven't fully acknowledged. For months, I kept having the same dream. I was inside a house with no exits, running from room to room, searching for a way out, but every door was locked. It was frustrating. It was suffocating. And then one day, it hit me. I was trapped. Not in a literal sense, but emotionally. I was stuck in a job I hated, a routine that drained me, and a version of myself that no longer fit. My subconscious knew before I did. Your dreams are trying to tell you something too. If you keep dreaming about running, maybe you're avoiding something. If you dream about being lost, maybe you don't know where you're going in life. If you dream about something from your past, maybe there's an unresolved emotion buried deep inside you. Start paying attention. Keep a dream journal. Write down patterns. Your mind is always speaking to you. You just have to listen. Number 4. Who were you before the world told you who to be? When you were a child, you didn't care about expectations. You didn't question whether something was productive or realistic. You just did what made you happy. Maybe you loved drawing, storytelling, or exploring. Maybe you had big dreams before the world told you they were too big. Then at some point, things changed. You started following rules, spoken and unspoken. You were told to be practical, to stop daydreaming, to do what was expected. And slowly, piece by piece, you abandoned the parts of yourself that didn't fit into the mold. Think back. Before anyone told you who to be, who were you? I remember as a kid, I loved writing stories. I would get lost in my imagination, creating worlds, characters, and adventures. But as I grew up, I was told to focus on realistic career paths. Writing wasn't a real job, and so I stopped. I convinced myself that it was just a childhood hobby, nothing more. But deep down, that creative spark never left me. It was buried under years of conditioning, waiting to be uncovered. And when I finally gave myself permission to return to it, it felt like coming home. So ask yourself, what did you love before the world told you to be practical? What parts of yourself have you abandoned? Sometimes rediscovering yourself isn't about looking forward, it's about looking back. Number 5, stop seeking validation. For years, I lived for approval. Every decision I made was influenced by what other people would think. I shaped my personality around what got me praise. If people liked me for being funny, I made sure to always be funny. If they liked me for being responsible, I worked myself to exhaustion to maintain that image. I became a version of myself that wasn't truly me. It was just a collection of traits that made me likable. But here's the problem. If you live for approval, you'll die by rejection. No matter how much praise you get, it will never be enough if you don't approve of yourself. And if your happiness depends on validation from others, what happens when that validation disappears? Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But you'll never discover who you truly are if you're constantly trying to be what others want you to be." So, I stopped. I stopped asking for permission to be myself. I stopped basing my worth on whether people liked me. And you know what? It was terrifying at first, but then it became freeing. Because when you no longer need approval, you become unstoppable. Ask yourself, am I living for me or for the approval of others? Because at the end of the day, the only validation that truly matters is your own. Number 6, your relationships reflect your inner world. Ever feel like you keep running into the same kinds of people? You meet someone new, and at first, everything seems different. But before long, the patterns repeat. The same betrayals, the same disappointments, the same emotional wounds resurfacing. It's almost as if life is playing a cruel joke, throwing the same toxic relationships at you over and over again. But here's the truth. It's not random. It's not bad luck. It's a reflection of something deeper. Carl Jung believed that our relationships are mirrors. They reveal what's unresolved within us. If you keep attracting people who manipulate, disrespect, or take advantage of you, it's time to stop asking, why are people like this? And start asking, why do I allow this? There was a time in my life when I kept attracting emotionally unavailable people. At first, I thought it was just coincidence. But then I realized I was emotionally unavailable too. I feared true vulnerability, so I gravitated toward people who would never fully open up. The universe wasn't punishing me. It was trying to show me something. Look at your relationships, the ones that hurt, the ones that uplift. Every single one of them is a message. What is your life trying to tell you? Number 7, you are not just your thoughts. Have you ever had a thought so dark, so intrusive that it made you question yourself? Maybe you suddenly imagined yourself failing miserably. Maybe a random, unsettling idea popped into your mind and you thought, why did I think that? What's wrong with me? Here's the thing. Nothing is wrong with you. Carl Jung taught that we are not our thoughts. Thoughts are like passing clouds. They come and go, constantly shifting, appearing out of nowhere, only to disappear again. But the real you, you're the sky, the observer, the awareness behind the thoughts. Imagine your mind as a radio station constantly broadcasting noise. Sometimes the station plays uplifting music. Other times it's pure static. But just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean you have to believe it, act on it, or identify with it. So the next time your mind throws a negative or intrusive thought at you, don't panic. Don't overanalyze. Just notice it. Let it pass. Because you are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them. And that is where your true power lies. Number 8, find your meaning, not just happiness. If I asked you what you wanted most in life, you'd probably say something like, I just want to be happy. And I get it. Everyone does. But here's the problem. Chasing happiness is like chasing the wind. It's always just out of reach. Carl Jung once said, "The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it." In other words, happiness is fleeting, but meaning lasts. Think about the moments that made you feel truly alive. Was it a cheap thrill, or was it something deeper? Maybe it was a time when you pushed yourself past your limits, when you created something that mattered, when you helped someone who needed you. Those moments weren't just happy, they were meaningful. Instead of asking, "What will make me happy?" start asking, "What will give my life meaning?" Because when you find meaning, happiness follows, not as the goal, but as a byproduct. Number 9, accept that you will never be fully understood. There was a time when I desperately wanted to be understood. I wanted people to see me, really see me, to understand my thoughts, my struggles, my depth. And every time I felt misunderstood, it stung. Then one day I realized something. No one will ever fully understand me. And that's okay. Jung believed that true self-discovery means embracing solitude. The deeper you go into your own mind, the fewer people will be able to follow. It's the price of growth. Not everyone will see your vision. Not everyone will resonate with your truth. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's liberating. Because once you stop expecting the world to understand you, you free yourself. You stop explaining. You stop seeking approval. You simply exist, authentically, unapologetically, as yourself. So let go of the need to be understood. Instead, focus on understanding yourself, because that's the only understanding that truly matters. Number 10, pain is your greatest teacher. Think about the hardest moments of your life, the ones that broke you, the ones that left scars. At the time, you probably wish they never happened. But looking back, haven't those moments shaped you? Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Growth and suffering are inseparable. The most powerful lessons in life are often wrapped in hardship. It's easy to see pain as the enemy, to numb it, avoid it, pretend it's not there. But what if, instead of running from pain, you leaned into it? What if you asked, "What is this trying to teach me?" Every heartbreak, every failure, every disappointment, it's all a lesson in disguise. And the people who transform their pain into wisdom, they're the ones who become unbreakable. So the next time life knocks you down, don't just ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is this teaching me?" Because there's always a lesson. And once you learn it, nothing can ever hurt you the same way again. Number 11, become who you were meant to be. Most people go through life half awake. They follow the script handed to them, go to school, get a job, fit in, settle down. They live and die without ever truly meeting themselves. But that's not your story. You're here because you refuse to be ordinary, because something inside you knows there's more. And you're right, there is. The only thing standing between you and your true self is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of stepping outside of what's comfortable. But here's what I need you to understand. Your potential is waiting. It's not out there somewhere in the future, it's right now. The only question is, are you brave enough to claim it? Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That privilege is yours, but no one can hand it to you. You have to take it. So what will you do? Stay where it's safe, or take the first step toward the person you were always meant to be? The choice is yours, and I hope you choose yourself. Carl Jung believed that true life begins when you discover yourself. But here's the thing. Most people never take that journey. They stay trapped in a life that isn't truly theirs. But you're different. You're here because you refuse to be like everyone else. You're searching for something deeper. Now, you have 11 powerful lessons to guide you, but this is just the beginning. Jung's insights go even deeper, darker, more transformative than most people realize. If you're ready to uncover the hidden truths about yourself and the world, check out the Carl Jung playlist next. But self-discovery isn't just about understanding yourself. It's also about understanding power. And no one understood power like Niccolò Machiavelli. If you want to know how the world really works, how people manipulate, deceive, and rise to greatness, you need to watch the Machiavelli playlist too. It will open your eyes in ways you never expected. And before you go, subscribe. Not just because it helps the channel, but because this is where people like you belong, the ones who don't settle. the ones who dare to see the world differently. Welcome to the journey.